is Ken Holloway. Ken Holloway is being honored tonight for football and baseball. Once upon a time, when Ken was a teenager, there was a little flyer that came home in the mail in the house that he grew up in St. Clairsville, Ohio. And if you're familiar with the state of Ohio, St. Clairsville might be as far south as you can possibly get. It's south of Steubenville. On the flyer was a list of the college football programs in the state of Ohio, and on that flyer it listed how they had been doing record-wise in the 1980s. And Ken, a football player in high school who wanted to play in college and was being recruited by similar schools to the Division III Case, noticed that Case had a strong record, a strong tradition in the 1980s. He knew that he wanted to play football, he was good at it, but he also knew that he wanted to study engineering, and Case had an excellent engineering school. So in his mind, he thought it was a perfect fit. So he came here from St. Clairsville, Ohio to play football and to play baseball. He'll tell you that he's a competitive guy, even to today. And it's the sports that he played, the game plan that you need to come up with as a player, the battle that you endure on the court or on the field or on the whatever place that you're at playing in the game. The one-on-one competition you have, it made him go. It gave him that edge. It really lit his fire, so to speak. He said also here at Case, so did his teammates and his fraternity brothers. From day one, moving from St. Clairsville, he needed a friend. He thought maybe he was a fish in a large bowl, and he suddenly realized that he wasn't. There were other kids who were from small towns, and that made him feel comfortable. Today, Ken's a middle school teacher and a middle school football coach. It's a second career from him. I asked him why teaching and why coaching, and what he hopes that the kids that he's around get out of it. And he said, hopefully, one day someone looks back and says, Mr. Holloway made a difference in my life, because there were teachers and coaches that made a difference in my life, and I hope that I can do that for the kids that I teach and coach today. So tonight, we give you a guy who made a difference right here at Case Western Reserve University. His name is Ken Holloway, your latest Spartan Club inductee. Presenting Ken will be his wife, Roz.
Well, the boss in my house is about a 15-pound little poodle, so in case anyone's wondering. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the Spartan Club and the selection committee. And this is an unbelievable honor. When I received the call from Amy, I was taken over with pride and a little bit of shock. I did not expect it. I've had several teammates, fraternity brothers that have been inducted, and I'm honored and taken aback. As Ron mentioned, I am from a small town, St. Clairsville, Ohio. Population of maybe 5,000. It's supposed to be, in order to be incorporated as a city, you're supposed to have a population of over 5,000. I think they count dogs and trees and pebbles to get over 5,000, but they maintain that city status. And when I came to the big city of Cleveland, I was definitely suffering from a bit of culture shock. I was looking at what I thought were the big buildings. And as Ron mentioned, I found fraternity brothers, future fraternity brothers, teammates that were also from those small towns, that were also looking to make some friends. And those friends that I made on that very first day of football practice are here today, and we stay in touch and go Tribe. I was recruited to Case by the late Ron Stuckey. Ron was very persistent. This is in a time before social media and Twitter and texting, and Ron and coaches back then, Coach Debs might be a little familiar with it, developed very good relationships with parents, right? So you would come home from wherever you were, and mom and dad would say, hey, I talked to this coach and that coach today, and Coach Stuckey developed a very good bond with my mother. And that was important, and I think he knew that. He was a great recruiter, and he got me to come up here and to see what a great university this was. Although I was very reluctant coming from a very small town where I think we had more deer than people. I had several great coaches. And in high school, I had the honor and privilege of being coached by two Ohio High School Hall of Fame coaches, George Strager and Lefty Hall. And those guys were phenomenal and made a great impact on me. And as Ron mentioned, and that's partly what led to my desire to be a coach, was some of those high school coaches that I had. Also some great college coaches. Jeff Rotsky was the receivers coach when we came in as freshmen, made a big impact on me, has been involved in the program. Still, Dave DiCarlo, who is on the current staff, was a coach back then. He coached the line. He would begrudgingly give me the Lineman of the Week award occasionally, even though I was a tight end. He had a t-shirt for the Lineman award. He would literally like throw it at me and say, "Oh, man, you're a tight end, but I got to give it to you because you graded out higher than all the other linemen." He was a breath of fresh air, and he still is. I saw him on the sidelines today, just coaching away. Also, Jerry Seaman was our baseball coach. Made a big impact on us as well from a baseball standpoint. And there were two gentlemen. One we've heard a lot about already, Mr. Sudek. You know, Coach Sudek had an impact on athletes that he didn't coach. I mean, several of us here did not play for Bill Sudek. But if we had a problem, we would go see Coach Sudek, and he would take care of us. He good times, bad times, he was there for you. And he was a very special person. Also, Bobby Del Rosa, Coach Del Rosa, who you'll probably hear a little bit from our wrestler about Bobby D as well. He had a couch in his office, and I'm sure several of you, former teammates as well, remember those times sitting on the couch in Bobby D's office. So even coaches that were not your immediate coaches had a major impact on us back then. My teammates at Case, great bonds that we have forged still to this day. We get together not as often as we like, but when we do, it's as if we had been in the fraternity house yesterday. And great bonds, and those were forged here at this great university. Some great memories on the playing field. Our senior year, we upset the nationally ranked Ohio Wesleyan. It was homecoming game. It was a great day. Fraternity house, we had a pig roast. I mean, it was one of those days where it was just like, man, it all just came together. We just, we pulled it off. We upset a nationally ranked team and had a great time. We upset Wittenberg that year. So it was one of those where, the early 80s, Case had some great seasons and had developed a great history, and we were able to keep that going in the late 80s. So yeah, we were in the late 80s, right, guys? We were a little younger. My wife Rosalind, who played basketball here at Case as well, I helped recruit her to come to Case. I met her when she was a recruit. We won't talk about the specifics of how I helped recruit her. We'll keep those details. My sons are here, so we won't talk about that. But I'd like to thank her for. We've been on a pretty interesting ride. Her job took us to Shanghai, China. We lived there for 8 years. Our boys spent their formidable lives there, and just had a great time living overseas. And that's why I joke about now Cleveland being the big city. I lived in Shanghai, China. I mean, there's like 30 million people there. I come back to Cleveland, like, this overwhelmed me. Wait a minute, what?
But I couldn't find my way here.
Yeah, but she couldn't find her way here, even though we lived in Shanghai. I have two boys, Jake and Teddy. They play football, baseball. Teddy also wrestles, which I think is kind of ironic, having developed that close relationship with Coach Del Rosa. And I'm actually glad to have a wrestler. There's no way I could have done that sport. I mean, it's a grueling, tough sport, but especially watching it as a parent. It's like somebody takes adrenaline and injects it directly in your heart. But lastly, I'd like to thank my parents for their support. They were my biggest fans. They drove all over the Midwest to come and watch all of our games, football, baseball games, and still to this day, they were just watching my boys play last night, actually. So they're our biggest fans, and I'm glad that they could be here for this honor. My mom is such a big fan that a couple of years ago, Scott Visconich, who is also in the Hall of Fame, when he was being inducted, they were trying to get a hold of me to see if I could come to the induction ceremony. And I was in China, so Paul Steffen he was trying to locate me. The phone number he had was my parents' phone number. So he got a hold of my mother, and they had a great conversation. They hit it off, and they talked for quite some time, talking about all of our travels through Asia. And and obviously told Paul that I couldn't make it because I was in Shanghai, but she said, well, I have one question for you, Paul. And he said, what's that? She said, well, why isn't my son in the Hall of Fame? It's Mom. So, motherly love, I guess, right? So with that, again, thank you all. I appreciate it. The committee and the consideration, it is definitely an honor, so I appreciate it.